Encounter number 5. Noah pleases God. Now, the first several generations of mankind have gone by now, and it's not quite clear what happened along the way, but something went wrong, or continued to go wrong. Adam had fallen. Cain had fallen further. Through Seth and Enosh, a God-worshiping line of believers seemed to be calling on the name of the Lord in chapter 4, and we might assume that such calling on his name would have been continuing, since we didn't hear any different. But then comes a surprising and perplexing wrinkle in the story of mankind, and it provides a background for our next encounter. It says, "Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord regretted that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him to his heart. And God cried for 40 days and 40 nights. God was going to have to match the absolute evil in mankind with an absolute destruction. They were all bad, all right, all of them, except one man, Noah. Note, not his wife, not his children. He had 3 boys, but they were riding on Daddy's coattails for their salvation. It's not because they were righteous themselves, but because his family was under the umbrella of his spiritual protection, you might say. Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation. Noah walked with God. This is the background of the story that we have all known so well since we were young. All right, so you ask, where is worship in this story? It may seem to be a bit obscure here, but the worship is really the center of Noah's tale, so let me get to this. Noah built a boat, right? But what about Noah's tale tells us about worship? First, we might say that Noah's story is about worship because Noah walked with God. What does the Bible mean when it says Noah walked with God? It doesn't say exactly, but it does say that he was righteous and blameless in his generation. So whatever it was everyone else was doing while they were eating and drinking and marrying and giving in marriage, it was without regard for God. But Noah was intentionally swimming against the current, perhaps bringing offerings and sacrifices, but more than that, he walked with God. We also worship when we walk with God. Paul calls it being in step with the Spirit, being continuously filled with the Spirit, or walking in the Spirit. We could also say Noah worshiped God by doing all that God commanded him to do. He obeyed God and built the ark according to his specifications. In truth, Noah knew that judgment was coming, so he built with holy fear. He worked hastily, knowing that the time was coming near. He worked diligently, knowing that God had specified every detail of his design. He also worked thoroughly, knowing that this boat was the only means of safety for him and his family and all those animals in a great cataclysm of water. Worship, after all, is obedience, instant, willing, and complete. So, Noah worshipped by walking. He worshipped by working. He also worshipped by preaching for 100 years. That's right. He was a herald of righteousness. And maybe he even used words when he preached. To paraphrase Francis of Assisi, God had personally told Noah what his plans were, what was ahead, and why it would happen. And so with every tree that Noah cut down, every nail that he drove, every animal gathered, he proclaimed what was right and what was wrong. Judgment was coming. Mankind is wholly corrupt. And God will not strive with men forever. But there is a way out. Listen, obey, tell. These are the marks of worship still today. And so came the flood, and Noah was saved, and he continued to worship. Sure enough, Noah had built an altar, and on it he sacrificed some of the life that he had safely carried on the ark for the last year of floods. And God was pleased with the aroma. But it was not because God was about to eat a big slab of meat. It was because sin had been atoned for once again by the sacrifice of innocent blood. Redemption, old covenant style. Let me clarify something. Noah was blameless. He was righteous. But he was not perfect. He sacrificed for his own sins and those of his family. That's what pleased God. Finding out what pleases God is the very purpose of our lives, you might say. Noah sacrificed to the Lord, and it brought the Lord pleasure. So worship, as it turns out, even found in Noah's life, is pleasing to the Lord. Find out what is pleasing to the Lord.